Hi, good evening, good day, good morning, wherever you are. If you're watching the recording, thank you for joining from the recording. Welcome to Ecocivilization's Water, Art, and Culture session. And I am very excited to invite you to this session. But first, we want to open up with beautiful Violeta Volch, who is the heart and soul of this eco-civilization movement, and she will give us a little bit of opening remark, and then we'll have an opening music, and then we'll jump into the conversation right after. Violeta, thank you for opening up a space for us.
Just go ahead and play the song of grandmothers, please.
Granddaughter, the water can hear you. The water has memory.
Nibi,
Wabo,
Endayan,
Nibi, Wabo, Endayan, Aki Misli, Nibi, Wabo, Heya, 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 Hey, Heya, 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 Ho.
Water is the life's blood of our mother, the earth. Water is the lifeblood of our own body.
Nibi, Wabo, Endayan, Aki Misli, Nibi, Wabo, Heya, 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 Hey, Heya, 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 Ho.
To continue to pass on the knowledge that needs to be given unto the other generations. You are the keeper of the water.
Nibi, Wabo, Endayan, Aki Misli, Nibi, Wabo, Heya, 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 Hey, Heya, 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 Ho.
To make the change in this life condition that we're in, that great-grandchildren will stand up to this truth of what life is about, and to live it in such an honorable way, the way ancestors came to this earth.
Nibi, Wabo, Endayan, Aki Misli, Nibi, Wabo, Heya, 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 Hey, Heya, 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 Ho.
Each day when the sun rises, no matter how bad the day before might have been, there's a new chance for your hopes and dreams. And I say, 𝐂𝐫𝐭𝐮𝐫𝐿, thank you for singing the water song.
Nibi, Wabo, Endayan, Aki Misli, Nibi, Wabo, Heya, 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 Hey, Heya, 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 Ho.
Beautiful. Violeta, now that today we're talking about art and culture, this beautiful video, we actually received a blessing from the creator of this video to share this in our Ecocivilisation sessions. Would you mind sharing a little bit about how the process came about?
Well, that's a very interesting process itself, because I was looking for some art dimension to all of our sessions, and I was actually looking for something that we could use as an opening, sort of standard opening statement or song or artistic expression. And I just talked to my friend, and she says, wow, you know, I just came back from Germany where we had this women's circles, and there was also this circle of global grandmothers present. And they were talking about water, and water is for them one of the key elements and key subjects that they engage around. And they you know, they recorded this beautiful video, and she sent it to me, and I said, wow, you know, this is something I could see every session to be opened with. And then I asked for a connection. She connected me with the lady in Germany who was part of this circle. And I got such a moving letter back. I don't think I've ever received such a deep and emotional letter talking about water and about their happiness. Their movie is shared. They don't want to appear. I invited them to be in our sessions. They say that they don't use digital means for the spreading of their information and sounds, but they do. They gave us a permission to share their video. So that's really short. And every time we run a session, I'm deeply grateful, and I try to energetically connect to them.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really appreciate that their commitment to share this, not in the digital, blessed us with a permission to use, but they themselves are committed to not be in the space digitally. And thank you for really blessing us, like both you, Violeta, and the creator of this beautiful music and video and culture for this moment. And speaking of capturing something, before we pass it to wonderful panels, and you recently had an experience, you yourself captured some picture of yourself during unfortunate circumstances in the flood in Slovenia. And I requested that you would share a little bit story about that. But I also want to ask a question. What prompted you to take that photo? You can share that picture as well. Violeta, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself, Violeta?
Okay, thanks for the question, Yuko. I don't want to occupy too much space because I'm really eager to listen to your stories and your wonderful guests. But just to say a couple of words, Slovenia went through the biggest natural disaster ever in the latest history. And it was really 1/3 of Slovenia was damaged, devastated by the water. And it is the first time I faced the power of nature firsthand. If you see, maybe the pictures don't show really, but the entire, I mean, a stream that is maybe 1 meter, not even 1 meter wide, turned into a 10 meters devastating river that was just taking everything that was in its way along. So here, when you can see, there were trees and there was infrastructure, roads and everything, but the water just took it. And it was very loud, very dramatic. And I was not afraid, but all of a sudden I felt this incredible deep connection with the laws of nature and developed, I was really humble. That's the best expression. So what was the reason that I took these pictures? it was also emotionally dramatic because my neighbor and I, the gentleman with the beard, he's a monk who lives also in our mountains. We were basically cut away from the rest of the world by 2 streams. And the first person that came to see us was this young fellow from the mountain. He walked an hour and a half to get to us next day. And it was such a burst of love and gratitude. This just kept going then. So I wanted to capture the moments of gratitude when Boris came and brought lunch that his mother cooked, and because we didn't have any electricity, we didn't have any water, the water systems were broke down. I mean, I had a bit and I shared with my neighbor, but his water system was completely swapped away. And as you can see in picture, this community spirit just started to grow day by day, because as soon as the water somehow got manageable, we started to go together in actions. And these are precious moments of human collaboration, and also, in a way, a moment when we faced the loss of nature in the most powerful and profound way. And luckily, we were all alive. We all survived. Our homes survived in this part, even though many people lost them. And it's just good to remind yourself of the moments when we felt as one. And there was no doubt that for a week we were just working with trying to at least clear the roots to the point that we could walk, and then to the point that maybe tractors and heavy machinery could ride. And in about 10 days, the first cars were able to get through. But primarily is to remind myself, and then of course I share this with others too, of this experience, because it was really deep, emotional, profound, and it changed us all forever.
Thank you for sharing, Violeta, and we're so glad that you're okay and you're with us today, and thank you for sharing. And that's a powerful thing, right? So, because it's in your human experience, that's your lived experience, that you wanted to capture the moment, you wanted to remember that this is a collective moment, people come together, felt love and all of that. And that's a lot of us, an artist and cultural bearer, create our work and inspired by our lived experience, what it's like. And it creates so many healings, it creates narrative shifts, and it creates social change, and create, most of all, like humanness alive in us. And artists and creators have been more involved in a social impact place and water movement, climate change movement, social justice movement. And I think we also get to share our voices in addition to our artwork, right? We see so many conferences and workshops that artists come and perform, artists come and share their film, but they don't get to talk. But I think this is the moment, and at least I want to open up this moment for these amazing artists to share what their work is about, what their process is like, and who they are. So I want to pass mic to our first speaker, Arturo, and I will share this so that, and okay, if you can take your mic, Arturo, the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us. My name is Arturo González Lozano. I'm an economist, filmmaker, and writer. I'm originally from Monterrey, Mexico, but right now I'm based in New York City. I've been living here for the past a little bit more than a year. And well, my work with water started last year because so in Monterrey, the city where I'm from, it's a semi-arid region, and there, well, for several years there was a drought and mismanagement of water, and everything came to chaos in last summer. because there was problem with the water supply of the city, so the city kind of shut it down for a little while. And me, along with one of my best friends, Ismael, he's also an artist. He has his own musical group. We joined forces, and well, I simulated a scenario of how the world would look in 25 years if we get to an extreme climate emergency and we didn't take care about water. And we decided to make a film about how the possibilities of living in a world without water 25 years from 2022. So it's based on 2047. And it's pretty much what we tried to do was to create awareness or raise awareness about the situation of taking care of water. And although we didn't go to the technicals of what happened in our city, we wanted to, make this something, because it could happen anywhere in the world. If we mismanage water, we get a water scarcity. It's happening in California, it happened in South Africa. So we didn't really wanted to put it like in a certain, name it like a place. We just wanted to create awareness of why we need to take care of water, and why, what would be the possibilities of what would happen if we didn't take care about it. I shared with Yuko a trailer, well, not a trailer, a teaser of the film. And yeah, pretty much. I don't know if you can share with the crowd, Yuko.
I thought we were going to see the whole movie.
Hopefully soon. Right now, we're doing some distribution, and hopefully we have it some film festivals or streaming next year. But yeah, we have a website. Maybe Yuko can share it in the chat if you're interested in learning more about the project. We also have a documentary of how we made this coming soon along with the project. So I hope that next year, when distribution comes, it'd be greatly available to the public.
Do you want to share the other video as well?
Yeah, sure. That other video, just to give you a little context, that's how one of the dams that provides water to the city of Monterrey looked like last year. And that's where we filmed the teaser and part of the film. So, yeah.
Estamos viendo en carne propia la pérdida de un recurso vital, el agua.
Si no hacemos un cambio urgente, en el año 2025, la mitad de la población mundial vivirá en áreas que sufran escasez de agua.
La peor parte es que las autoridades no están tomando cartas en el asunto.
So thank you so much for sharing, Yuko. That's actually, this is the first time that's like a little teaser of the documentary. So hopefully, it'd be available soon for yeah. But in the meantime, you can just keep track of us at laultimagota.org. We have an English website, a Spanish website, and well, I'm constructing a little Japanese website. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Arturo. And if you have any questions or comments for the guest speakers, we will have a discussion after. So please leave that in the comment or remember that until the end. And next, I would love to bring up amazing poet and musician and the Benny Starr to the stage. Thank you so much for joining us, Benny. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here today with everyone. My name is Benny Starr. I am a hip hop artist, filmmaker from South Carolina. This very small town in South Carolina in the U.S. It's called Pineville, South Carolina. We're two of our biggest lakes in our state where they converge. We're also on we're a coastal state. So currently we're in hurricane season, which we're usually in 6 months out of the year, from about June to about November, which my surroundings and my perspective as a Black person growing up in the United States informed a lot of my work. Been a hip hop artist and MC for about 13 years, created many bodies of work while also trying to collaborate with other artists in the South Carolina area and in the South to build more of an infrastructure to support artists and artists' work and their expression and their work just beyond their product. In 2018, we debuted and recorded a live album called a water album in Charleston, South Carolina, where we use water as a contextualizing theme to talk about many things, to talk about race, to talk about justice, to talk about history, remembrance, care, love, uncertainty, wellness, many things, because of the way that water has impacted that place where that we're from. It has impacted the food that we eat, the food that has been grown, the economies that have thrived. It was water that brought my people, my ancestors, over to the United States in bondage. And so we would like to talk about water as this contextualizing theme, where we can talk about all these different aspects of our humanity while also paying close attention to the fact that Charleston is one of those cities, like many cities around the world, that is feeling the impacts of climate change and sea level rise, and the people that will more than likely and often feel the brunt of climate change. Not long after that, I became inaugural artist in residence for U.S. Water Alliance, a nonprofit who works as a bit of a convener amongst all these different collaborators who are trying to solve different water challenges. And most recently, after completing my residency, the focus of my work now has been just creativity, and not creativity as our societies tell us creativity is, what it is, but getting to the crux and the importance of creativity as this innate human thing, this human need that we all have. So that we can identify and incorporate creativity as not just the thing that eccentric people or weird people do over here in this corner to entertain us. Not only that, but as a fundamental building block of us solving the type of challenges that are ahead of us, specifically with water. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Benny. Please do go check out all the concert video of the Water album. It's fascinating. I fell in love with it immediately, and I didn't know Benny, and I just reached out to him and said, can you please be our speaker? And he was very kind and generous with his time. So thank you so much, Benny, for joining us. We will have more chat after Paulina. So next up, we have a beautiful Paulina. She's also a filmmaker, and hold on 1 second because I want to share this. And she's another person that I did not know before, but I fell in love with her work, And so Paulina, floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm Paulina. I'm documentary filmmaker, graphic designer, and photographer. My passions are documentary filmmaking, of course, science and activism. My film, Heal the River, was created during the film fellowship in Alabama. The entire film from pre-production to post-production was created in 6 weeks. So it was pretty challenging. And this is a story about community who lives over Tallapoosa River in a small town. And now they are in the process of relicensing of hydropower project, which at the beginning was supposed to be economic advantage, energy advantage, but over the time, we also notice some negative sides, like decreasing biodiversity of river, damaging the creeks and the river, and also like some safety issues. So in this film, I was very inspired by dedication of people who fight to improve the quality of the river and preserve this place. And also, what is very interesting for me was that this place actually, because when we think about identity, frequently we think about our parents, about genes, about school or education, but we rarely think about our natural environment. And I think in this film, we can really see this, how the natural environment around those people who I interview actually shape who they are, and they want to preserve it for the generations to come. So I don't like speaking. I prefer to show my work. I think they can say more. So if we can play trailer or one of the fragments, I would be very glad.
The river is a vital part of this community. It always has been.
My dad grew up here. I basically grew up here. There's not many people left that know the river and the creeks before the dam.
The Crooked Creek project was designed in the 1960s and 70s for flood control and generating electricity. 38 years later, the result is a structure generating 135 megawatts of power, delivering questionable downstream flood control, and a reservoir hosting residences along its borders and fishermen on its waters.
You see how quick this was ankle deep, 15 minutes, and we're up above our knees.
When they were getting ready to implement this, we were promised over and over and over, we are going to be able to control flooding. I have not seen that happen.
It affects the spawning of fish, it affects recreation. As it always is, it takes a little time to realize what the downside of something may be.
I feel like the people below the dam have spent 40 years without having their interest represented at all.
There's a relicensing process. It's really a once in a generation or once in 2 generation opportunity to make some changes to how the dam is operated.
So I also have one more fragment. I picked this one because I wanted to show the power of filmmaking, because this project was created actually to supplement all documents and report and comments from community members to submit it to the relicensing process. And I feel like this documentary was very useful to show the damage and the difference between and after a hydropower project. So I don't know if we can play it. The one with, yeah.
Growing up, I never saw trees falling and dying like I see, ever. The only time you saw a tree come down was in a massive flood, and now, look around. They were beautiful. I mean, you look at the banks, you know, there's death up until the point of the high mark from generation. It killed off all the grasses. But, you know, this was all rocks, and now it's all mud. I want to show you what the creek looked like before the dam. So we have to get probably another quarter of a mile up the creek to get away from the effects of the generation from Lake Harris Dam, and you'll start to see a difference. And as soon as you get to a point where the water doesn't affect the creek anymore, it's beautiful. The way it looks up the creek is the way it looked all the way to the river. And also the way the riverbank looked before the dam. And when you start to get into an area that's not affected by generation from Harris Dam, you'll start to see what the river looked like as well as the creek. They've opened one turbine on the Harris Dam, and the creek floods, they generate, and so everything washes down to the point of where there's zero current from the backflow of the river, and then you get trash buildup, and that's where all the sediment comes from. You see how quick this was ankle deep. 15 minutes and we're up above our knees.
So for me, this film was very meaningful project. I really love doing things, especially filmmaking, which I feel I can make a difference or raise awareness about something. And I think this fragment is really interesting because not only community members speak how important this river is and describe the beauty of it, but we can really see it before and after. So I think that's the power of the filmmaking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paulina. And what a gorgeous piece. And I hope you all can see it. And it's super powerful. And again, utilizing the power of art to start a dialogue, really getting involved with the community so that we can work with the people and use that as a tool rather than that being an entertainment and nice to watch. It's just a starting point for us. It's an invitation, it's a connection and education. So thank you so much for highlighting that work. And we have one more speaker. Unfortunately, she is not able to join with us today, but I just want to share her website really quick. And her name is Sabina Sethwani, and she is a wonderful performance artist, interactive public work. And so she's been doing this play called A Fun Play About How Scary Climate Change Is. And she's been doing in the beach, public places, really getting people in the city involved. And she actually has a video on her website. So if you have a moment to check it out, please do. And if you happen to be in New York area, you can actually join in person as well. So I highly encourage you to do so. And I will drop that link right here. Second. Okay. And I think in this time of digital age, we have enough of talking at people. So I would love for us to start a discussion or a dialogue so we can talk with each other, we can have a conversation. And I saw one question from Violeta that's really, really resonated with me. So I want to ask that question. So her question, so actually, Violeta, do you want to share your question, the second one, about having stronger voice?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for these impressive stories and very direct, and the vibration. We unfortunately didn't hear the song. I wish we did, but Danny. But the movies, even being so short, you could tell the quality because they stirred emotions. So my question is to all of you speakers: do you feel that communities are getting stronger and are having a stronger voice regarding the quality of natural ecosystems that they live in and their lives altogether? Because of your work, are you much closer to those communities? So just a little bit about your experience, how these stories came about.
So I just want to talk a little bit of my experience. So I saw your first question about Monterrey and everything. So I feel like in Monterrey, we always knew that we were having trouble with water, but until we actually had no water and the water supply was cut off, and like it was different between zones of the city. There were some zones where they didn't have water, and like they had to go to public places to pick up water. Sometimes they brought water pipes. So I feel like, once you don't have water and you realize how important it is, because, for example, if you want to, I don't know, take a shower, go to the restroom, just do whatever, you're going to need water. And I don't know, I feel like at least here in New York, nobody really cares about water, because we have always had it as easy as you just open your tap and have water from it. So I feel like definitely not having water has like made people more aware about how you have to take care about water. Maybe not about the environment, because not something has happened drastically about that, but with the water issue, I feel like at least in Monterrey, like people, since that has happened, has become more aware about the water usage. And I feel like now, but it's all because we didn't have the research, and we realized how important it is for subsistence. So now that that it's scarce and you might run out of it, you tend to take more care of it.
Just a quick one. Can you imagine New York getting itself into such a stage, and how do you as an artist imagine New York with a shortage of water?
Oh, that's a pretty tricky question, but I mean, I just want to I lived that in Monterrey. So pretty much what happened was that there were people had water tanks, maybe to save water. So, when the water supply was coming, at 4 a.m, they had the water tank coming up so they can fill it up. And people that didn't have access to water tanks, they were relying entirely on water pipes coming to their neighborhoods and supplying water. And it was chaos because people was fighting over water. There were reports that I don't know, a guy threatened a driver of a pipe to take the pipe to his neighborhood. So it's definitely chaos. I feel like people who is probably wealthy or have more resources might find ways to cope with it, I don't know, buying a water tank or storing water. But definitely it's gonna be, it would happen in New York. It would be chaos. I feel like people would be fighting for water, honestly. Yeah.
Thank you.
So going back to the question, do you feel communities are getting stronger and having stronger voices because of your work and because of the impact you've been creating? Benny or Paulina, you have any response?
Yes, I think that, yes, I think communities have always been very aware of their situation. They've always been very aware of the things that they're having to experience, and usually they, more often than not, have a very good understanding as to why, even if they can't put words to it. Sometimes we know things in our bodies without being able to verbalize what exactly is going on. But I think art, my work at the time, especially during the time of that project in Charleston, South Carolina, there was a long period of what we could call pre-production, where upon me arriving back in the Lowcountry, that area is known as the Lowcountry because it's low-lying relative to sea level. It's pretty flat. I grew up there, went off to school, and then came back. And even after coming back, I couldn't just make something. I think if we think of creativity in the way that I like to think of it as the incredibly conscious human being encountering the world or experiencing the world in a manner that thrusts them into a process of bringing something new and of value into existence, there had to be some pre-production time for me to say, what is it that is worthy of being said right now? What is it that is worthy of creating artistically right now in this place? And it allowed me to get really, really deeply entrenched in the community, whether that was churches, education, in schools, with other activists, with other artists, to then be able to say, what is going on that I can speak to, that I can help amplify, that could actually help galvanize us to work together collaboratively and give people permission to be creative in new ways that they haven't maybe thought were possible, but they've always had the means and the skills and the genius. So in that way, I think that relationships become stronger. The messaging is amplified, and it gives a whole new generation a mechanism in which to connect with the previous generation. Because the last thing I'll say that I think is really important, we always talk about imagining a new world, but I do not believe that it is possible for us to imagine a new world without remembrance of things that have happened before. And in order to do that, we need our younger folks connecting with our elders. We need to be able to learn from them. We need to be able to communicate experiences and sharing those in our quest to imagine these solutions that we're looking to find.
I'm not sure if we are asking about my specific community or just in general. But
specific.
Okay. So I think in the specific, what was very interesting and also difficult, that we have community downstream and upstream, and they both have different objectives and needs, which it was very hard to manage and combine together. So that was one of the issues. But I think that people who were raised over this river, they have a memory how it looked like before and after. And there was a strong community collaboration and commitment. They organized meetings about this river, because what is interesting about this community, the river served many purposes there. It was entertainment. It was also a place of rituals, because in the past there was a baptism there. There was a source of relaxation, of admiration. Many of community members associate this place with their best moments of childhood. So I think so these memories of how it was and how it looks like now, it brings them a lot of courage and a lot of courage to fight, to preserve it, and reverse the damage.
Yeah, thank you so much for all your answers. It's so powerful. It comes down to the relationship, right? Whether that is amongst the community, amongst the nature and ecosystem as a whole. So thank you for highlighting that. And especially Benny, I want to echo on like learning from the generations before. I think that's such an important part. And that's the full circle from our opening music, right? It is a culture passed down. We learn from the ancestors. Yes, Rajani put the question, do you think it is fair to expect from artists to create the work that helps society to evolve? Because on one hand, we talk about creative freedom. What do you think this dichotomy may make? How do you think this dichotomy may coexist? Powerful question.
I don't want to dominate too much time, but I do believe that, to echo the words of James Baldwin talks about how the artists know something that the politicians don't, that the soldiers don't. We are often the people who are able to communicate to people what it is like to arrive here and survive here. And I think so much of what we create, so much of what societies create, the constructs and the institutions and all of these things are designed to protect us to protect us from the idea of just how real it can be. All those things that artists remind us: loneliness, dread, love, death, despair. These are very, very real things. And I think artists have the duty to consistently show up and do that. Artists have the duty to consistently show up and tell the truth and remind people about what it is to be human. And I think in doing that, we're able to retain so much of our humanity so that we can create, we can establish meaningful relationships, we can be very intentional with our time, we can take care of the earth that sustains us and gives us life. The minute artists begin to lower themselves to a point where we only want to talk about things that keeps people maybe distracted from the reality that we are intense human beings, I think that can be very dangerous. And that's just my personal belief about the role of the artist, to consistently show up and tell the truth about what it means to be human in all aspects.
So I also wanted to add something to that question. So, for example, I feel like, at least talking on my personal experience with the last drop, well, at least for myself, this happened because what was happening in the society, I always loved filmmaking, and I feel that, it's my hobby, my passion. So I like to do it as often as I could. And at the time, there was like this water crisis happening. So those external factors, I feel, that influenced me to, find a voice, which, I mean, it might have not been my own voice, but it might have been like a voice maybe of like, hey, like, listen, like this could happen. I mean, at the time I did at school, I was doing economics, and we were having this class of economic development. And I remember that at the time I was reading a lot of papers because of the class about like different issues regarding economic development, but I was always fascinated by like how climate change is like definitely one of the things that can like bring devastating consequences to economies. And for example, something that I try to do, at least on the last drop, hopefully you guys be able to see it soon if your distribution efforts go well, but it's making this difference of the highlight how like like wealthy countries, developed countries are going to cope differently with climate change as less developed nations. Because, for example, you have like these places like, I don't know, like Southeast Asia, that they probably are the countries that less emissions have, but due to their situation, where they're situated geographically, they're like more prone to like having, I don't know, like maybe floods or having like more hurricanes. So it's also like a thing, like water, also with water, there's like this thing like, well, maybe we don't have water, or maybe what happened with like Paulina's film, we have maybe too much water. So it's definitely a thing like where I feel like through art and like what we tried to do with the last drop, and as well, like I feel it's also a collective effort, not just of myself but also my team, like the artists that collaborated. For example, like 𝐬𝐮 en el Desierto, that's the band that made the score for the film. They also try to like talk about like social change issues. So I feel like, you know, like we artists do have like this kind of duty to finding our own voice, and if we can like inside of our own voice like talk about like topics that are like relevant, like social change or you know, social justice, climate change, I feel those you know, we don't necessarily have to do that, but if, you know, inside our voice we can find that and add that plus value and make people think or reflect about like how our relationship to certain things are, like water or like environment, I think that'd be perfect. It's not our duty, but if we can, that it's like an added value, I feel like.
Paulina, did you like to add anything?
I don't see necessarily this as a risk, but that's my perspective. I see this as opportunity and advantage where we can utilize art to bring awareness, educate, and preserving memories. While studying in the United States, I was starting thinking where I was reading all those scientific articles, how this is not accessible for everyone, this knowledge, because you need to pay for the access to magazines and scientific discoveries. Therefore, for me, filmmaking and documentary filmmaking is something which we can utilize to make knowledge and education more accessible in terms of language, visually, and also like in terms of like networking, that we can create a film and share it via like public, via YouTube or other social media. So for me, it's advantage, but I'm talking only from my perspective. But I can see the risk as well. So
you could allow me just to ask Tara Rinpoche to maybe leave her contact information, because I can put you in touch with some companies that deal with purification of water.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I want to echo on what Paulina said. Art is a language that speaks human, right? These human experience are the things that connect us. And I saw the comment from Louise, I believe I'm pronouncing your name correct. Louise, you said, like, how can you inspire people to change their behaviors? I think that's what art can do. I don't want to speak for all the speakers, but like art is helping us to connect, right? Even though your circumstances might be different, right? I may not understand the specific people in Monterey's experience, but I might be able to connect with the emotional thing that is happening, so that when something else that relates to the emotional feeling, I can relate to that. So it's not only your problem, it's our problem. That's the beauty of what artists can do. And it might go over an hour mark. So if panels are okay to stay, I would like to add one more question that I'm personally curious about. So now that we're talking about all the collaboration, and if you might have already touched on this, but how do you think artists can collaborate with other sectors? Like we have a Dr. Nini here, and like working in like a scientific perspective. We have a Violeta who's been working strongly with NGO and UN spaces, and we have educators, like a scientist, and Arturo is economist. How can artists collaborate with sectors so we can also take on action more tangible on a daily basis, including feeling loved? That's super tangible thing, and we cannot forget that. So I want to ask all these panelists, how would you see the collaboration of artists evolving moving forward?
Well, I just want to like say something, and again, my personal experience. I feel like I learned a lot with the last drop. This is the first time like I've been directing projects, but this is the first one like in a big scale. And I feel that this was a time that I collaborated with most artists in my life while doing the project, because everybody part of my crew was involved. Some of them were actors, some of them were also like acting, but also like musicians. So I feel that first we have to collaborate between artists to create something meaningful. And once we have something, and for example, in our case, we were collaborating to get the film. So once we had the film, we did an event called The Last Drop in Monterrey. We had the event last April. And what we try to do to collaborate with society, or like at least to try to share a message, first we went to the younger generations, to like schools, to present our project, to invite them to the premiere. We also brought a Greenpeace to the screening, so we had a little bit of their videos about like the water issues in the Central Valley of Mexico. Just not only about Monterrey, because it's water is important for everyone, because if without water we don't have life. So I feel like we did that, and I feel like for example, a way which science could collaborate with film. I feel that art is very powerful, but for example, what if you're saying something that is not accurately scientifically in your film, right? So I feel like, for example, those kinds of collaborations, at least that's what we tried to do in the last one, but we were like using facts, but at least fact checking, for example. That's like kind of like a way you could look into economics, or for example, in the future, we might be able to host another event, make a bigger event in Mexico, or make an event in New York, or whatever. But like maybe that's like a collaboration with the private sector, because we wouldn't be able to do it by ourselves, just like without funding. So I feel it's like a way in which everybody can collaborate. First, like collaborating with us as artists, creating something powerful. And once we have that, just trying to share with the society. And if it's something meaningful, I feel it's always very important, as I said, like trying to get that message to the younger generations, because they're eventually going to be the generations that take decisions. So, at least if we try to give them a new mentality, new ways of thinking, maybe when they are in our position to make decisions about, they might take more, maybe it's all because they watch a movie, or they went to an event and they say, oh, well, we have to take care of water, we have to make this. So I feel that it's little by little, but first collaborating with ourselves, and then finding ways to make it bigger and collaborate with other sectors.
In terms of filmmaking and collaboration, I think it's a great privilege and opportunity, but also responsibility, because as a filmmaker, I don't have a scientific knowledge or background to be able to review all information are given in the interviews. So that's why it's so important is collaboration with content experts, with community members, with researchers, so we can have individuals' perspectives, different perspectives, but also we have a scientific perspective or sociological perspective on some issues. And then also as a filmmakers and artists, we can see ourselves as a gatekeepers, because the way I ask questions, and later in an editing process when I'm deciding, okay, I'm picking this part of the interview rather than this one, that's why I think it's very important to collaborate and make sure to have a different perspective. And I also think that by utilizing different resources like statistics, interviews, art, I think we can reach more people, because I think every of us has different ways and preferences. So I think that's powerful to collaborate.
I think one thing that I usually say to my friends, my collaborators, is that relationship is infrastructure as well. And as a creator, I have a process, and oftentimes art or what we create gets whittled down to only the final product, and the process gets wholly ignored. So I know healers have a process, scientists have a process, everyone has a process, and I think that is a really fertile ground for exploration when we start thinking about cross-sector collaborations. What is the process that artists or creators may employ that gets them to this final outcome? And if we are intentional about the learnings that can come from process, then we can trust that outcomes will be impacted in the way that we're trying to get them to be impacted. I think that's the same for all these other sectors of people who are trying to solve these problems. So when we start thinking about cross-sector collaborations with artists, don't merely bring an artist in to perform their piece, but inquire about their process. Discuss, be in dialogue about their process, your process, how that strengthens relationship. How are we in relationship to the environment? How are we in relationship to the water, in relationship to the land, in relationship to joy, in relationship to labor? How are all these things constantly in relationship that allows us to really, really engage in creativity in the ways that we were meant, and continue to engage in it as deeply conscious human beings, encountering the world in a manner that thrusts us into a process of bringing something new and of value into existence.
I love all of this, and just being able to share artists' process, how they work, how they contribute to narrative, and those are super powerful thing, and something that I practice in my work is to really share the story of artists and how their process work, how they communicate their artwork into their community. So I am very much looking forward to collaborating with all of you again in the future. And I know that Donna has something that she wants to share, so I'm going to bring up Donna.
Sure. Thank you all for all of the really important resonant themes that you raised. I'm going to pick up on something that I think Violetta opened up in her comment in the chat around how art is offering a new mentality in the way of our thinking. So I'm going to try and weave a number of things together really quickly. One has to do with this very mechanistic industrial society that we've grown up through, that has de-emphasized and devalued our, we have a whole brain, but our right brain capacity, which we all have inherently, and some of us a little more creative than others, but many of us have lost that along the way, or it's not valued. And if you're familiar at all with the work of Dr. Iain McGilchrist, he's done some work looking at this and relating it to all the different ways that we can nurture more right brain capability and creativity amongst us. And even go further, sorry, when we look at the problems in our world, the ability to say, I don't know, to work together collectively and creatively is more of a right brain capacity. So we're living in a world where everybody's under pressure to have the answers. And we know that many of the answers are not the solutions, that we need to bring the best of our capabilities together to figure our way out of some of these things, and to apply the solutions, many of them that do exist. So I wanted to raise that. And then also we got to find, and I know you're on this, Yuko, and also Violetta, and so are we got to find ways to bring all kinds of creative, artistic, cultural creatives into the mainstream, because this is what touches the human spirit. This is what gives us inspiration, hope, builds community, and inspires that sense of joy and spark that you spoke to, Benny. Because without that, all of these efforts that are going on in the world are falling short. So this is the connective glue that we need. This is the beating heart. And so we need to find ways to bring it into the mainstream, and we need to find funding flows that support the work and the talents of artists that also inspire the creative in all of us. You know, and you'll know, like my way of being creative, and I'm a bit of a closet writer all my life, is with words. I admire greatly people that can have, you know, can sing and play instruments and can do visual stuff, and we need to mix it up. So the last thing I'll raise here, because I'm very conscious of I'm holding all this stuff, but the comments about transdisciplinarity, of bringing together the different disciplines. Oh my God, we so need to do that. And artists can play such an amazing role around the connective tissue that brings us together across disciplines, which is more than being multidisciplinary. It's learning from one another across our different fields that gets us out of the compartmentalized boxes that we grow up in through school, that perpetuates that tunnel vision, the myopia that keeps people thinking, oh, this is it. And we need to open that up. So that's all that I'll say. But thank you so much for what you shared here, because it's very resonant with all the work I think we're all trying to do.
Thank you so much, Donna. Make sure you put your contacts so that people can reach out to you as well. Your work is powerful, and I'm a big fan of you as well. So it has been a wonderful time, and I want to make sure that we are honoring everybody's time here. I'm also putting my contact information if any of you want to connect and talk more about this. That's something I can talk all day. As these speakers know, I will talk about this all day, all night. So today we really talked about the theme is water, art, and culture, but it really is about the connection. It really is about lifting up people's voices, learning from each other, and really seeing each other as humans first. And artists and our artists, as in all of us, get to be the connection point and be the connector and a healer and change maker and educator and more. And ultimately love for each other and for this time and for future to come. So thank you, everyone. And before final, so one of Ecocivilisation member, Deidre, and myself, with the help of Ecocivilisation member, we created the piece. We have yet to name this piece, actually. So if you come up with any name, please let us know what might sound good to you. But this beautiful piece is artworks are contributed by Deidre, but it's about a minute long, and I would love to honor this time and thank you everyone for joining. And I would love to close with this piece. So here we go.
Water. Voda.
Nero.
Magi. Pi. Lo.
Mizu. Water.
Mai.
Pani. Acqua. Waha.
Ishka. Tubig.
Wow. Bravo, Iyuka. This is really special ending. So very touched. I'd like to thank you at the end to you, Arturo, to Pauline, and to Benny for your time, for your valuable inputs and pieces of your art. Thank you, Donna, for your comment, and everybody else who participated in the chat. Is a lot of great comments there, which we will follow up on and use them in future collaboration. And if you allow me at the end, just one additional information, just that you know maybe where, again, meet with us. This is now a series of events. We have done 7 of them. Today we successfully completed the 8th in the series of Year of Water. One is more powerful than the other, and 2 more are coming. The role of water in rituals and festivals on October 25th, and then November 29th, the Year of Water, the new water management paradigm, where we will bring all the knowledge of this year together and propose some concrete actions and further collaborations within Ecocivilisation community and everyone else who wants to join. It's good to say that Ecocivilisation movement is a mission-driven disruptive cluster. It's growing very nicely. We have 30 years for the first phase, so no pressure, but a lot of diversity and a lot of deep diving into the emergence of new thoughts and new boundaries and new inspirations. So we are so proud to have such a strong art community with us, who's constantly offering its own new dimensions and pushing us beyond the edge of industrialization. And of course, nothing happens by itself. So the Year of Water is brought to you by 4 of us who collaborate and work in a cross-cultural and cross-generational way. And all I can hope is that it's bringing a little bit of sparkles and creative inspirations to all of you as well. So maybe we'll see you in one of the next events. So thank you very much. And I wish you a great day. And thanks, Ykko, and the entire team again for bringing this magical moment and connecting the environmental issues, the issues of water, with new, exciting, creative insights. So all the best.
Thank you, everyone.